Well, my personal life is very, I would say, different from most childhoods. I grew up with a volunteer background. My mom is associated with the American Legion, and that's helping veterans. And that really was the foundation to help me realize that it's not just about me. I need some more perspective in life, and I feel like that's what helped me become who I am today.
I've been at the Writing Center, I believe, for 2 years now, if you include the 250 class. I would say my personal life has impacted my tutoring life in a lot of ways. Who I am as a person has influenced my tutoring because I am very unconfident in myself, and a lot of my humor is self-deprecating. So that's not the kind of stuff I enjoy other people experiencing because I want other people to be happy. So I try to build the confidence of my students in ways that I didn't have. And so I became the traits of tutoring that were pointed out to me because I honed them, because I liked that people praised them. And I really noticed it when I was taking 250, and people kept pointing out that I had very self-deprecating humor and that I wasn't confident, and it's not really someone I wanted to carry over. I thought I could leave that behind when I left high school and I found college. And I had a talk with Dr. Ryan when I did my first video, and she told me that I seemed a lot better. And I asked her what she meant, and she kind of was like, well, you seem a little bit more confident since we did more work, since we had more experience. And I thought she was right, and I didn't even realize it.
Upon graduating from Albright with my bachelor's and then master's, I was hired by RAC as a dedicated ESL tutor working in their multilingual learning center. From there, they also asked me to start teaching ESL classes, and then from there it became, what it is today, teaching a variety of composition courses and working with students, both ESL and traditional. So I started at tutoring primarily ESL students at Penn State Berks in the spring of 2016. And then I continued there until the spring of 2018. For me, as an individual, I've always been very apprehensive with asking for help and dealing with people. I felt like it was a failure. So as a tutor, I'm very cognizant of that anxiety, of that sort of stigma. No matter what their particular level is, they should feel comfortable talking to me. So my personality always needs to come through as being as nurturing, non-judgmental, and understanding as possible.
So I started working at the Berks Writing Center my spring semester, my junior year, so that was like 2017 in January, as part of the tutor training course. And then I was hired at the end of the semester for my senior year. So the 2017-18 school year I worked there, and then I started working in the RAC Writing Centers this fall. I've always had a big personality. My personality is something I really brought to tutoring, and it's something I bring to teaching. I try not to be too different in a professional setting as I am like day to day. Like, it's almost like I up the level of who I usually am to make them realize, like, okay, she's kind of weird, but she knows what she's doing, and like this is what she wants to do, and I think it engages them.
Overall, it was a little rough to start because I was worried about, okay, am I positioned correctly? Am I talking to the student, correctly? Am I using the right lingo? Am I going the correct order of what we talked about. Am I working from the inverted pyramid? I had so many thoughts in my head and so many, to use a term from the book, external influences, affecting my session, that I felt that I was sort of distracted all the time. But as I got more comfortable and as time grew, I feel like I gained more experience, obviously, with more tutoring sessions. But overall, I became more confident in myself and my abilities to actually help the student and not worry about, okay, am I doing this right now?
Well, okay, so the problem with the real me or the real anyone is that a real person is subject to a host of emotions that can benefit or harm a given duty. And when it comes to tutoring, I think a lot of my default emotions are fairly miserable. I'm a miserable person. No, I'm not. But I often become very despondent. I often see a lot of anxiety or issues in my own life that don't need to come through in the tutoring session. Because for one of the roles you play is you're their cheerleader. I think that is necessary. A lot of teachers and tutors don't see it that way, and they take a much more curt professional approach where it's like, I'm your support system, but you have to take responsibility. But my philosophy has always been, no, I have to be the one rooting for them. Because sometimes they don't do it for themselves, and they don't have people in their lives that can do it for them, that can push them to be better.
I find myself a little stressed because of classes or other things outside of tutoring, and I really try not to bring it with me, but there are times when I'll have the beginning of a session fall flat because I just can't get out of my own head. I would say if I had the best session possible and I did all those things like build confidence and establish empathy, and I would say I have made a couple connections outside of the writing center where a student will see me and they'll tell me about their paper first, and then we'll have a conversation. So I definitely think that they see me as more than just a tutor, but as a person.
So I wanted students both at the top of the class, the middle of the class, the bottom of the class, all of them, to feel like I was someone that they could talk to get help. So yeah, in many ways I did see my own anxieties and problems with tutoring and use them as a way to understand what potentially could be the anxieties and problems of others, but always in the service of removing stigmas and judgment and making people feel like tutoring was always a productive use of their time.
It's the most fulfilling. I work with a lot of ESL students in the library, and they get to tell me about their lives, and I get to see who they are in their writings, the messages they have to give to the reader, and the stories they share. Last Wednesday, I almost went home in tears, like some of the stuff I read from these students, because their lives are so impactful and they love to write about them, and they're finally learning how to.
I could see myself becoming some sort of tutor, not by definition, not by title, just by the way I live my life. I feel that we are always students, we're always learning, and a lot of people say that, but they don't actually live by that. And I truly do live by that. And if I'm always learning, I always want to teach somebody that I have learned. But I will always revert back to teaching and remember some of the aspects of this class and the tutoring in general.
So, tutoring for, at this point, over 5 years professionally, 7 years, going on 8 total. You often think, like, people always ask, why do you do it, or do you enjoy it? It's like, obviously I enjoy it. I'm not torturing myself by being a tutor. I think it is trite, unfortunately, to say that it's like, oh, those moments make it all worth it. But yeah, they kind of do sometimes. I hate to admit it, but it is true sometimes. When you meet certain students and they keep coming back to you and you do see progress, it does make everything else feel like it had meaning. Would I do it again? Yeah, probably. I think I would have done certain things differently. I think I would have approached certain sessions differently. But it has been a almost consistently positive experience that I would not want to have not had it. So yeah, I would do it again.
I definitely would do it again, not only because of what I learned in the classroom, but I've developed so many other skills that you really can't teach in a classroom. And that goes hand in hand with the tutoring, the in the field work. I feel like this has added my interpersonal skills, has developed just my overall communication skills, and so many other skills that I probably can't even think of that are just there now.
In a heartbeat. There was days when it got frustrating. There's days now when it's frustrating. But when you have the days where you see a student finally understand what they're writing, or a student comes back and they get an A on an essay, being able to raise a student's confidence that much, and especially with the ESL students who have their own insecurities with their use of the language, seeing them overcome that and really use it to their benefit is incredible. I love seeing it.
Oh God, would I do it all again? Would I take? Yes, I would. That class has helped me grow as a person exponentially, and it showed me a lot of things about myself that I had no idea that I could do, and it gave me a leadership role that I had no idea that I could fill, and I met a lot of amazing people through it, and I wouldn't change that for the world.
I'm Chelsea Watts, and I approve this message.